Welcome to The Current, Conversations with Catherine Kent. Join us as we discuss current events while flowing on and supported by the current of God's divine love. Welcome, everybody, to The Current, where we're just going to discuss whatever is on our heart and souls from a divine love perspective, where we keep each other uplifted. Yes. So let's begin with a brief prayer. Oh, holy God, we are so grateful for your love. Our souls are thirsting for more. Come and be with us now, Father, and always. Transform our souls into at-one-ment with you, that your will may be done in us and through us. And sweet God, send your angels to surround and support us, to uplift us, to guard us and guide us, to keep us evermore faithful on this divine love journey, home to your love. God, we seek to be of service to all whom we meet, and here we serve one another in conversation, in grace and peace and mercy that comes from your love. Amen. Elizabeth had an idea of something we could start with tonight. Do you want to share that?
Yes. One of our board members is Ron Shoemaker, and he and I spoke today, and he used the phrase, allowing the divine love to come into my soul, allowing it. And we talked about prayer for divine love for quite a while. And then for the rest of the day, I contemplated and said inwardly those words, and it did have a big impact on me. And I'll say that he learned of the divine love when he was 18 years old from his father, who had gotten a volume 2 from his sister or brother. And Ron is now close to 90.
And all of his adult life, he's been seeking with the knowledge of divine love. When Elizabeth shared with me the perspective of allowing God's love into my soul, I really warmed to that, because God, I feel, is so generous. Sometimes I have difficulty asking for more, you know what I mean? Like asking for anything. And even though I know that's not how divine love works, right, and that's certainly not how God thinks, it's just a feeling that I have that I'm just going to say more, 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 more. And so a lot of times when I feel that way, I just say, God, I pray that you will help me live a life that's pleasing to you. And a lot of times I'll say, I miss you. I wish we could be together, which I trust is my soul longing for love without me coming right out and saying those words. And then with this concept of just saying, I'm open, I allow, that really resonates, because we know that God's love is always, always, always available. But that God doesn't impose love on us. So we do have to invite it. But I imagine there are as many ways to invite God's love into our soul as there are souls.
And allowing doesn't necessarily follow the invite. We can invite, but if we then don't allow, then it stays distant. So one thing that I say in my prayers is that I'm here in total allowance. That to be your instrument, to receive the blessings that you have for me, and to be a channel for those. And then I am allowing,
Yes,
what I've invited, to be open and receptive to the blessings you have from me and those you have through me for others. I'm allowing that to occur by your will. I am here in allowance for that. It may or may not happen. Who knows?
Right. And that's something I'm curious to know what each of you sense, because a question that's arisen for me in carefully studying the Paget messages, especially Aman and Aman, because what happened? And it seems to me, the understanding that I got was that they didn't have the patience. I believe a man actually used the word patience. They didn't have the patience to follow God's plan, which tells me that even for them, the first parents who were perfect, living in a perfect world, it would have taken time and effort. And what they did have was a belief they didn't need to follow the plan. So, what I understood that to mean was that they believed they could be God, not necessarily that they were, but they could be God through their own power. But I think the question that I have for each of you is perhaps in your experience with your prayer life, do you sense an ebb and a flow that is not necessarily precisely lockstep with your longing and your prayers?
Not sure if I understand your question. What is it that wouldn't be in lockstep with our prayers?
Receiving. So, for example, I can tell you from my perspective, and this is not so true now, and I think it's because I've developed quite a bit. But let's say 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I could still be praying really fervently, and sometimes I would sense a felt experience of receiving God's love and being uplifted and spiritual growth and development and so forth. And other times I would be just as fervent, but my felt experience was as if God was silent. So I didn't have the same experience of receiving. And I prayed about it, obviously, and asked to discern what did this mean. And what came to me wasn't so much an answer from God, like I didn't get a sense that God was telling me an answer, but what I got was a sense that my soul was saying, wait patiently on the Lord. So maybe it was a test to have faith even in the absence of evidence that my prayers were being answered. So, my question to you is, do you sense that as strong as your prayers is, the inflowing of the love is? As weak as your prayers are, the inflowing of the love is less. When you stop praying, you don't feel the love. I'm just curious to know if anybody has had kind of an experience with ebb and flow or anything that you want to share.
Well, I would share that my prayers are not always as fervent as I would like them to be. However, I have a commitment to be in prayer and to come to know my Creator and those who are supporting me on my spiritual path. So I'm going to come even when I'm not feeling fervent about it, because it could change in the course of the prayer. And so sometimes I am not feeling too much receptivity, but I am also certain that that is not important, that the work is continuing beyond my perception at this moment in time. So I don't know if that's what
I
you're
I
looking.
agree, honestly. I think first of all, also my prayers are not only not always as fervent as I'd like, they're often not as fervent as I would like them to be. I would love them to be fervent all the time. And I was sharing with Elizabeth earlier today, we met briefly, that I would also like to always be in joy. And not because I want to be joyful. I'm perfectly content with whatever. Most of the time my mood is just sort of calm, so it's fine. But the reason why I would like to always be joyful is because I sense that God has blessed me so richly that my experience should be joy. I should just be bursting with joy with all the blessings that I have. And I feel a little tiny bit frustrated that I can't give that gift to God, my joy, my constant joy, and that I can't give that gift to the world either of being in constant joy. Part of me wishes that I could, but I do the best that I can. But also, I think what's really important that you shared, Deborah, is that you have a commitment. So irrespective of your fervor or lack thereof,
Yes,
your commitment is unwavering.
yes.
And I share that. And I think that you are completely right. In fact, I'm certain that you're right, that that is what is required, because there are vicissitudes to life. There are cycles within cycles within cycles. We are animals, at least partially. Our bodies are animals. Our souls are totally spirit. The spirit body's somewhere in between. We've got a material realm going on with laws. We've got spiritual realm with laws. We have the whole celestial or astrological, there's impacts that we don't understand. And I used to really kind of roll my eyes at astrology, but I don't anymore, because I still don't understand astrology, and nor do I delve into it, because it's not my thing. Divine love is. But I believe in it. And the reason is because if the moon causes the tides, which we know scientifically that it does, and the oceans are way bigger than me, then it's purely logical that we are being deeply impacted by astrological conditions that we don't know anything about or understand. So I think for us
including
to,
the earth.
yes, so I think for us to just be patient and to have compassion for cycles within ourselves that we may not even understand, and the ebbing and flowing. And maybe that answers my question about Aman and Aman, where they didn't realize that the patience required was required no matter what. It wasn't something that God was being mean and saying, well, on my time and my way. It was more a case of, hey, this is a process and it doesn't happen instantaneously.
Yeah, it's a big, big process to move from being human.
One of the other aspects mentioned in the Amon messages, as far as why they went astray, was pride and arrogance. I think there was probably the chief sin there. They sort of thought, they didn't need God basically, and they thought they could do things to achieve becoming like Him on their own terms and in their own ways. So the other part of the question that Catherine asked about, feeling God's love inflowing every time we pray. My experience is I don't have strong sort of feelings or experience of the love coming in, but I do have and have for a long time, probably since my young adulthood, when I basically accepted God into my life and started walking, a spiritual path with God. I've definitely sensed peace, a deep peace. And even now, like, Alex and I are going through a crisis with him being so ill, but, I've been at peace. And I know it's not just my prayers, it's everyone else's, because I know a lot of people are praying for us. But, I have definitely been strengthened. I've had my moments, obviously, but they have been few and far between. And it's kind of amazing because, without that, without being strengthened from beyond, I think, I know I would be going crazy, or, be a lot worse and a lot harder to deal with. So I think peace is a big one. And we quote that verse in, I think it's Philippians, talks about a peace that surpasses understanding. And we kind of equate it with God's love, which I think is valid. And I guess all the fruit of the Spirit that I mentioned in Galatians 5 are sort of connected with God's love as well. Because if the Spirit imparts the love, then it imparts the joy and the kindness and the peace and all those things, because it's all part of the new heart that we are receiving.
I've been praying for divine love for 25 years, but it has changed. In other words, I watch. Oh, I'm bringing all my assumptions about God and I'm projecting onto God that He's just like another person. Because I noticed that when I prayed to Him as though He were the father I had as a kid. Please, Daddy, please, pretty please, with sugar and honey on it. I'll be nice. I'll be good. I'll be cute. In other words, I was trying to convince Him, even when I knew here, God's love is completely available. He wants us to have it. But when I went into the habit of asking, please open my soul to your love, it right away went down to the basement of, please, and I realized it was very unconscious that I thought I had to beg and plead. I realized it was an unspoken assumption that he would not give it unless I convinced him, because that's the human life.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a while to notice it. And so that helped me turn a corner. Then when Ron said what he did about allowing, because I have been contemplating, please open my soul. And the issue is we don't open it ourselves. He opens it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very easy to say, and it ain't easy to do, because I'm used to doing everything. I'm a human being. That's what you do. You do. And you make it happen. So I ask the Father all the time, please help me to understand what it really means to ask you to open my soul. And sure enough, Ron Shoemaker said to me today, it's good to contemplate. He's opening our souls. And I can get that. A door opens. I don't have to open the door. He opens it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I always turn away from people and towards the outer doors, the nature and the sky. It helps me. And I contemplated it today many times. And that I can relate to from my past experience as a human being. Someone else opens the door. And then I could feel it. And I felt what I think is the experience of the love coming into my body and coming into my soul. So I'm going to continue to contemplate that, which is why I brought it up today, because as soon as Ron said it, I said, and I told Kate earlier, wow, I'm going to stick with that for a while now.
Yeah.
Oh, and my hands have been going up for a few months now. They do, and I call them my satellite dishes.
Yeah.
Because the satellites go there to see the starlight. So they're seeking to receive. They're kind of asking, oh, starlight, come over here. We human beings want to know what you're like. So now when I put my hands up, it's me asking for divine love, but it's also me receiving it.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Asking and receiving come together, especially when God is involved.
And allowing. Yeah.
Allowing, because that's what allowing is. My hands are not going like this.
Allowing is not doing.
They're allowing. Yeah, they're allowing. They're not doing.
It's being.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
That's-
It's not doing, it's being.
There's so much being shared that just really resonates with me. One of the things you said, I don't know if it was last time or the time before, Elizabeth, but you were saying that when you turn
Yes.
and you are allowing,
Yeah.
you have a sensation that is akin to like a soft cloud. And I thought, yes, that's it. Because for me, what I'd said is if you can imagine mist falling on water, that's how soft and gentle it is. And it occurs to me that, God being so almighty, we literally can't even imagine. So for him to try to transform us, it has to be a very gentle process, or we would be burnt to a crisp probably, or overwhelmed or whatever. And one of the things that you said, Deborah, that I also really appreciated was coming to know your creator. Coming to know your creator. And
Nice.
that's what I'm trying to do too. And I feel like for me, I'm learning who God is by the way that my prayers get answered. And I'm so touched because like you, Eva, like you were saying that you've received so much, not only the peace that surpasses all understanding, but also so much help throughout most of your adult life since you got on a spiritual path so early. You wouldn't want to contemplate what your life would have been without the help of God. And that's how I feel too. And that's why I'm just so amazed at how sweet God is. I remember a couple of years ago, I went through a lot of expiation from my teenage years. And this was stuff that I just shoved away and closed off because I couldn't really do anything with it. It was over a long time ago, but it was still impacting me. And I went into prayer and I could just sense this like really gentle tapping. God's just like, open up, like let go, let me have this. Just let go of it.
Nice.
And I opened up and he's like, you don't have to worry about it. It's okay. I'll just take it now.
Yeah.
I'll just take it's gone.
Yes.
But let me take it. So it wasn't like I had to like work through it, process it, or any of that. God's like, it's over, it's done, forget about it. I'll take it, but you have to let go.
Yes.
That's
And let me-
another allowing.
Yes,
Right? That's more allowing.
it is.
Doing.
And then it was just gone. And it's just like this, and it happened again, like the politics and divine love video that I really did not want to do. And I went into a complete, I was a nervous wreck the day before because the message that came through inspiration was not me. And I wasn't really aligned with it. And I was quite in a rage. And I called up a friend and I just literally ranted and screamed and cursed, I might add, for about an hour. I had to get all of that out before I could even make that presentation because I so did not want to do it. But, and at the beginning of that video, if you ever see it, you'll see I'll say I'm super passionate about politics, which is hilarious because guess what? Not anymore. Once that video was done, it was just gone. Just gone. So you can get healed in an instant. It's over. I don't care. It's all gone. All that angst, all the anger, all the frustration, all the rage, all the, passion. Like it never existed.
Oh, that makes sense.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But you are right, Catherine. I think my life, I probably wouldn't be around if I hadn't, done them, if God didn't draw me to get on a path, because I was an atheist and I was pretty unhappy. I wasn't happy with my home life, and I really don't think I'd be around, quite frankly.
Yeah, Eva, I understand the feeling. I was not an atheist. For whatever reason, it's a gift. I do believe I actually received some divine love in the womb, in utero, because I'm pretty sure my mother was praying to the Holy Spirit a lot while she was pregnant with me. She'd had a miscarriage between me and my elder brother. And she did have a strong faith. And I think that my soul in utero sensed her prayers and joined. So I came in with a little bit of knowing of God. And the one thing I had imprinted on my soul was the one way that I could really completely fail at life was to take it. And so I've never been suicidal. However, I suffered from depression for such a long time. There was many, many times when I prayed that God would take me. I did not want to be here. And I can tell you that if I did not believe that suicide was the only way to completely fail, I would have taken my life probably a dozen times. I've had life has not been easy for me. So I'm so happy now. That's why at the beginning of the call, I said, I feel like I should really, I should just be in joy.
Yeah.
You want to be. Yeah, and the should part is probably keeping that from you.
I'm shifting on myself.
The shoulds.
Yeah.
That's another, take that out of there.
I know. Well, and part of it to me, and I'm sure this is very common, it's hard to be happy when other people are suffering too. I mean, you got it. Only divine love can lift you above that. I do feel all of this stuff's improving. That's why there's evidence to me in my life experience. There's evidence to me that this divine love path is a very real substantive path because it's yielding fruit in my life. And I'm reminded too that the spirits are always with us and they need help. I just read a message this morning by Julius Caesar. It was written on the 1st of May, 1917. And it was really amazing to read that it was James Paget who brought Julius Caesar out of the hells. He'd been in the hells for almost 2,000 years. And he happened to catch a glimpse of Paget getting messages, and he was curious. And because he was curious, he came around and he inquired. And that's how he found out about the possibility of divine love. And once he started receiving it, he was on fire for it. When he wrote that particular message, he was in the third sphere. So he progressed out of the hells. And he said he was focused, laser focused on getting to the celestial kingdom, and nothing was going to get in his way now that he understood it. But he also shared that many times spirits had come to him with that message, and every time he had turned them away because he didn't believe they could really help him. So what that tells us is a mortal has a portal into helping spirits that angels can't reach.
And the
Yeah,
messages,
they've said that several times.
yeah, and the messages say that they're more likely to go to the earth plane and that they can see us. And that's how
And
so
here.
many of the dark spirits came to him, and that's why they gave him Wednesday nights for about a year to talk to dark spirits. After a while, they didn't want him to take up that much time. But I wonder if Caesar came on a Wednesday night. I wondered that as you said it. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But yeah, they're
May
drawn.
1st, 1917.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to share that relates to something one of you shared just a few minutes ago. We don't really know what's happening with our prayers and this process of being transformed. And there was a message, I believe it was the 12th of April, that came through Al Fike. It is my all-time favorite message. I've listened to it over and over and over again. I'm going to keep listening to it until it is completely imprinted on my soul, because every single word resonates with me so profoundly. And one of the things that Augustine said is, we are largely blind and ignorant to even what's happening, even as we're praying and receiving the love, we don't see it. And even Paget, you can see it when you read the Paget messages here. Jesus comes literally in his glory to the point where the angels who reside in the celestial realm and see Jesus in the celestial realm have never seen Jesus come in his glory like this. The angels are literally on their faces. The angels are on their knees because they're blown away by Jesus. And Paget, he feels great that night. And within 3 days, and this happened at least twice, if not 3 times, he's in despair. Every time. 3 days later, he's in despair. And he's had Jesus come in his glory into his room.
Mhm.
And when I was in Myersdale, I perceived with my soul perceptions, Jesus come into the room. He entered on the right side to the left side at a 45-degree angle at about 10 miles an hour. I felt him come in and my soul bowed. My soul bowed. I had never felt a holy presence like that in my life. And I looked around, nobody else was bowing, but I was bowing. And it wasn't a choice I made. I didn't think, oh, a holy presence, I am going to bow. No, my soul was like, and then a second later, Al Fike opens his mouth and says, I am here, I am Jesus. And I'm like, well, that was a confirmation. And then he just did a really short blessing because that was opening that particular circle of light. So he did like a 2-minute blessing. And then Matthew came through, and I was all excited because Matthew is one of my guides. But I also was staying like upright, eyes wide open, holding a space very consciously, because everybody else was going into a trance. And I was like, somebody's got to have the watch. I'm going to have the watch, because when I had been in Queens prior to that, some dark entities came in and nobody was like, and I'm like, hello. And when I say dark, I don't mean they were coming in curious. I mean, they were coming in nasty. So I'm holding the watch, right? And I'm listening to Matthew's message, and I'm sitting here thinking, wow, man, this sounds like it could be just for me, but I'm not saying anything. I'm just thinking it, right? Thinking, no, but that can't be. And then I sensed with my soul perceptions, Jesus in a white robe, he's over here somewhere. He's got his hands behind his back. He walks over from the left side to the right. He bends over at the waist. He's got a big smile on his face, and he leans over to my right ear and he whispers, "But what if it was?" And ladies, I lost it. I started sobbing uncontrollably. I'm shaking the couch. Jean's next to me. And of course, I'm trying to be silent because Al's still channeling. There's 13 people in a circle. I don't want to start, making a lot of noise. But I'm shaking the couch because tears are, running down. I was a mess. And after we closed the circle and we had the little debrief, then I sobbed loudly and told everybody what happened. And all I could think of was, thank you for saving me, because I had felt like I just assumed I was always saved. Like I said, I came in, believing in God and trusting in heaven and thinking I was going to go straight there. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have. So I realized in that moment that I was way far off. I was way far off. I had veered far off the path and I had a long way to go, but I was finally where I needed to begin. And that was why I was just overcome and so grateful. And I was like, and I really appreciated that Jesus came in a way that I could actually perceive. It was a big deal. I didn't come down for a week after that. I was just flying. Well, I'm curious if anybody watched the sex talk.
I was there.
I liked that you said you thought it was a divine love topic, or
Divine truth topic. You
yeah.
were saying you didn't think that it was in alignment with your divine truth
Well,
talk.
yeah, I didn't feel like it was out of harmony, but I just felt like it was natural love.
Mhm.
I think that was my concern. But the reason why my guides kept pushing and pushing and pushing on me, which literally they worked for years, is because apparently a lot of souls are being really harmed, like at the soul level. There's a lot of soul injury happening through disharmonious approaches to sexuality. And I have actually had conversations with multiple people over the years, including before I found Divine Love. But when I knew that certain acts were disharmonious, and was very surprised at the vehemence with which people defended these disharmonious acts, and even twisted to the point of convincing themselves that they are harmonious, not even neutral. But like, I'll give you one example because it really stuck with me. I tried to help this man. He wasn't too young. He was in his 30s, but I tried to help this man understand that his penchant for bondage and discipline and, even sadomasochism was a very base approach, because he liked to think of himself as a spiritual person. And he said, "Oh, no, no, it's really spiritual, because you establish such a bond of trust. We call it intimacy, intimacy, intimacy." And I thought, okay, well, he's not open to what I have to say, so I didn't waste my breath anymore. But I was really stunned by the level of confusion he had allowed himself to absorb. If you can become that confused, that you allow yourself to be convinced that a disharmonious act is actually especially intimate, it's just sad.
Mm.
And so I think the service of that video is more to do with non divine love followers. Like I'm hoping that somebody catches it, who's outside the community and shares it and it starts going. It would be nice if it went viral. Either that or maybe just spirits. Every time somebody does watch it, spirits get hopefully healed.
Yes.
And maybe stop making it worse by
Encouraging others into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
by exacerbating it.
Yeah, there's a lot of darkness down there, and yeah, like you say, one could not only affect them, but affect those that they would have influenced.
I am glad that I did it. I'm relieved I got so much help with it. And I'm so glad it's over.
Done.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just going back to, is it okay to go back to the other topic?
100%. Yeah.
Because I'm still sitting with that, and I'm just amazed that that word and that phrase that Ron brought today has so easily opened a different door for me, from please open my soul. Yes, I know the meaning of it is God does the opening, not us, but guess what? Please open that door. Please bring me that book. Please anything. It's still in the human realm, and now I'm finally able to hear it in the other realm. I can't explain it other than to say it feels different. Habit. Would you bring me that, honey? No, that's not the same. And I needed that.
Mm.
I just feel like someone just opened up my back, as though they just opened a hatchback.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I need it too, Elizabeth, and I'm excited because, I'm getting ready to go on this retreat and I'm going to take that with me.
Good. Great.
Well, that's another way that you get a sense of progress is by rereading messages and getting the new meaning or the missed meanings in the messages. Yes, I read that, but I didn't notice that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it
Oh,
happens all the
yes.
time. Yeah, that's
It's like
right.
taking a new bright flashlight to something you had seen in dimmer light.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long ago?
Understanding it at a different level. So
Yeah, definitely.
as a different being, the
Yes.
message
Yes.
means something else.
No kidding. And I feel like they're really encoded with so much
Oh, yes.
information. It's not possible, even if your soul condition didn't change, although I do concur that as you develop, you're seeing new things. But I think there's just so much, we can't get it all at once. And it really needs to be perceived with the soul. I always pray first and come into my soul and then approach the messages. And a lot of times, and I still can't read them. I can't just like start here and read through. Even now,
Yeah.
I read a sentence and I'm like, wow.
Right.
Because
Yeah, no, I say it's worth taking one sentence at a time.
yes. I mean, it's amazing. I was grateful that Augustine said that you're blind and ignorant because I've been saying that. I'm like, God, I don't even know what I'm asking for. I'm
Yeah.
blind and ignorant. And I use those exact same words. And then there it comes out from Augustine's message. And I felt like everything in Augustine's message is something that I said in prayer. That's why I love it so much.
Oh, yes.
I listened to the Q&A that Ryan gave just recently. And afterward, what was the image that was in my mind was spurred by how much patience they must have. And I thought it would be kind of like us trying to teach an earthworm to fly.
That's why I don't like listening to Orion, but yes, I agree.
Well, he didn't say that exactly, but he just by what he did say about how little we know and how dense we are being. That was the image that came to my mind.
Yep.
We're just little earthworms, and yeah, we're gonna fly someday.
Yes. That is
Yeah.
good analogy.
Well, from Orion's perspective.
Well, I
Yes.
just mean, the not knowing to the knowing is gigantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you become this whole different being, right?
Yes,
Like,
exactly. We let go
yeah.
of the physical eventually, of course. But more than that, our soul changes its whole quality, its whole being. You're reminding me that, of course, I live in the United States. There's a lot of stuff in the news. I don't watch news much, but I keep up a little bit. But whenever something comes that feels, my satellite dishes go up. That's what happens. I think my soul is, help, please, Father. And knowing that the Father's love and the celestial heavens are there, they are untouched by the evils in the world, and that this too shall pass, just as those who go into the dark places in the world of spirit are only there so that they can progress out,
Mm.
Yeah.
that they can realize, oh, I didn't realize the things I was doing were harming others, and that's the law of compensation. And then hopefully some of them realize there's a greater law than even that.
Mm.
You are loved. Wow.
And that's the big thing is hurt people hurt people. So what
Yes.
they really need is to have compassion and love for themselves too, and to allow themselves to be loved
Yes.
and to be forgiven.
Yes.
Another thing that I just want to, I've said this before, I'm sure I'll probably say it many times because I feel like it does bear repeating, but I I also am a little bit of a student of history. And every time I see or hear something that I just think, oh my God, that's so horrible, I realize it's literally not new. It's just not new.
Oh, no.
There is really, as horrible as some things are right now, they are no more horrible than they've ever been. And the other thing that I want to say is that there are, and this is not being said enough, there are many beautiful and wonderful things happening now that are more beautiful and more wonderful than have ever happened before. So even when I hear like a celestial come through Al and say, oh, things are very dark and they're going to get darker, I'm like, they're also very light and they're going to get lighter. That is also true. We have more light and more love and more compassion and more wisdom and understanding coming through now than we ever have before.
Right. And she said, what I come back to when we hear about all the darkness is the Father's love is above all.
The most potent.
It is above all. It's as though we could put our hands up into that and feel that incredible love and all the darkness and the craziness. We know that's the real deal.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the real deal.
Yep. All right. Well, why don't we close with a little prayer?
Good. Father, I allow your love to come into me. And I know everyone here is resonating with, we allow and welcome your love coming into us.
Thank you, Lord God. And thank you, my sisters.